Hi guys, if you're new here, my name is Sam and I make videos about makeup, chronic illness, and whatever I want. And today I'm going to be ranking all the palettes I used in 2021. I realize we're 3 months into the year, but the beginning of my year was rough health-wise. It's also why I took a little break last week because I had a bunch of appointments and I can't do both this and that. I kind of wanted to swatch all these palettes, but then I realized I'd be here for 6 hours and my skin would be really bad at me. So we're not going to do that. Without further blabbering, let's just dive right into it. I will preface this with, I do love almost all of these palettes, but you know, when you're ranking them, you do have to kind of come up with some cons. This first palette is so old that it's actually broken, so this is going to be retired. It's the Tarte Graveyard Girl Swamp Queen palette. I got this because I'm a huge fan of Graveyard Girl or Bunny. This was back when she was like more into makeup. How it's broken is the mirror fell out. Tried to glue it back in and that didn't work, so we're just gonna try to carefully do this. Also, yes, I have like makeup on the back of my hands. I'm a hot mess. It's been a minute since I filmed. So let's see, there's glare on this, so this is really hard to, there we go. When I got this was definitely a color story I would gravitate towards more, and there are actually a couple shades in this I really enjoy. I like the whole warm nude thing, so I did a look with these 3 colors and I really enjoyed it, but this palette is just kind of not impressive to me, but it does make me want to try one of Tarte's other palettes. I know people are kind of like, they're not impressive, but as you can tell by the look I'm wearing today, I have been doing more neutral looks, so I won't rule out replacing this palette with one of the Tartelette palettes just because I'm interested in giving it a try, but I'm ranking this lowest in the palettes I used last year just because I can't really create a look I would do now and the quality just isn't that impressive. So we're going to, if I can get the mirror back in, we're going to fully retire her and she's going to go onto the Makeup Memories shelf behind me. I want to briefly say that I understand when people choose not to support brands for personal reasons, but I don't do that on this channel. I just use and buy makeup that I think is good quality, and makeup is makeup for me. I understand if you disagree, but you might see some brands that you don't personally support, and that's okay, but we're all friends here. Let's not make personal judgments about one another because of something we own. And with that, the next on the list, Jeffree Star Thirsty. I'm just realizing that I did not say that I was ranking these from like least favorite to most favorite. I hope you... It's been too long since I've done this. I need to stop taking long breaks. And this is what this looks like. I actually really like the quality of the mattes in this. They're really pigmented, they're really buttery smooth, and they blend really well. But this middle row, I'm going to swatch to see if I can show you. They're kind of inconsistent, like they're kind of, this one's a metallic. These are almost like pressed glitters, and I get a ton of fallout, but like the glitter shows up sort of. It's very chunky, and if you are new here and you don't realize this, I hate pressed glitter with a passion. So I truly do not like using those. That one that's just a metallic, I don't actually know if there's another one of those. No, they're all that glitter except for that gold shade in the middle. So because of that, I don't rank this very high. I don't reach for this as often as I should, but I do reach for a couple of colors in here that I don't have any similar shades to, like this coral color. I don't believe I have anything else like that in my collection, so when I want something like that, I reach for this. I'm not a depotter. I don't like to break apart my palettes. I would rather have 5 strewn across my desk than have to, you know, rip up the cardboard, and I don't know, I just really like palettes. I also don't like singles very much, so that is this palette. Not really a favorite. This next one also fits my disclaimer. I realize this brand is kind of controversial right now. The ABH Riviera. I was actually incredibly excited to get this palette because I really love the ABH formula and I wanted a colorful palette from them. Now the top row, all these shimmers, they're kind of messy, but they're really, really pretty. Again, like really powdery and such. But I think they're nice. They're not the most impressive shimmers that ABH has ever done, but I really like them because they're fun colors. The mattes, however, are quite hard to work with, especially that dark purple shade. And I understand purples are hard to work with, but I don't know, I just don't find myself reaching for this unless I want one of those shimmers. If I was a panner, I would do that. Not a panner. If I was someone who depotted stuff, I would do that with this, but we will keep her just for the shades that I do like. Next up, we have the Huda Nude Medium. If you've seen my ranking Huda palettes, you know that I love the color story, I love the mattes, but the shimmers crease on me, and that's not something I often have a problem with. I do have deep set eyes and a pretty deep crease, as you can see, but I don't generally have an issue with anything creasing, and I do use these with a glitter glue. It makes glitter stick better, but also makes shimmers just more shiny, and I'm just not a fan of this. And right behind that is the Huda Nude Rich. I haven't had the experience of these shimmers creasing on me, but I'm kind of in the boat where I might rehome both of these and just get Naughty Nude because I prefer the formula and the quality of her large palettes over these 9 pans. I haven't made that decision yet, but I don't reach for either of these too often just because they're kind of a headache. Now we have BH Take Me Back to Brazil. I'm very much going to miss BH Cosmetics because the quality of their eyeshadows is quite good. This was one of the first colorful palettes added to my collection because it is so budget friendly. And in the beginning, I was incredibly intimidated and scared by color. So this was great to have because it goes on sale. You can use coupons at Ulta on BH because it is drugstore and not prestige. So it was a really great way to dip my foot into color. There are so many colors to really blend it out and create a monochromatic look, which is something I like to do. I like to have a ton of mattes to blend things out. The only thing is the shimmers in here are god awful. I wouldn't even call them shimmers. Maybe they're like satins. And these pans are really, really small. And I haven't used like half of the palette because it's all the satins. So I kind of think I'm going to move this to the Makeup Memories as well because I just have other rainbow palettes I reach for more often, but I really like to see where I started. This next one is the Profusion Sienna. As you can see, I got this in clearance for $4.98 at Target. This is definitely a dupe for ABH Modern Renaissance. This is a really good palette, I think, if you don't want to spend a lot of money. I know the full price was $10. It was $9.99. So this is a lot of eyeshadow for that price. And it's quite good quality. I highly recommend Profusion to people because I think they're really great for what you get. Why this is ranking so low is I do have Modern Renaissance and I think the quality is better. I'm not going to lie. ABH formula is just quite good. The other thing is, surprisingly, you would think the fact that I love warms, as you can see from my many eye looks, this isn't really my color story. I don't find myself reaching for it too often, but if I am, I'm going to pick Modern Renaissance. I do like this, and I recommend it to anyone who's interested in this color story, but I placed this kind of low. I did get it before I got Modern Renaissance. And I thought I liked the color story enough to purchase Modern Renaissance, but I don't know. My makeup changes are changing with time. Like I'm wearing more nudes than colors, which is very new for me. Makeup taste changes with the season, so we'll see. Maybe I'll start gravitating towards this color story more in the future. Next one I used was the Makeup Obsessions Rady Daydream. If you're not familiar with Makeup Obsessions, it used to be available at Target. I'm not sure if it still is, but this is a sister company of Makeup Revolution. It looks like this. I actually really like the mattes in this, especially this blue and blue and yellow are fantastic. I use this blue regularly in my blue looks because it's that good. But I have the same complaint that I do with have I even complained about it yet? The complaint I have is the shimmers are just kind of more satin. They're not very impressive and they don't show up. So this is definitely a companion palette for me. And I will say, please don't take a shot every time I say companion palette in this video because you're going to hear it a lot and it's dangerous. But I love the mattes in here. Everything else is kind of just meh. But I'd say half the palette is mattes. So we do get a fair bit of use out of her, and I only placed her this low because half the palette I don't touch. Morphe Jaclyn Hill, the original formula, which they don't make anymore. This is before they put, they had all this on the back. I printed this out and taped it on the inside so I knew what the names of the shadows were. This was my first palette that had any color in it. I'm gonna hold it like this. I remember the first colorful look I really did for like any kind of pictures or anything was with these teals, and I was so proud of myself because it looked so pretty, and it still looks pretty, but it's kind of fun to see how far I've come with my makeup skills. I know I have a long way to go, but it's fun to see your progress. This palette is so much of the same. It could be half the size. And at the time, this was like my third or fourth eyeshadow palette. And I really wanted it because I love warm neutrals, as you can see. But I wanted to start dabbling with some color, and we definitely had that here and down here. And I have gotten quite a bit of use out of it, you can see. And I still do like this palette, but the reason I had to rank her so low is the quality isn't as good as some of the other warm neutral palettes I have. The shimmers aren't that impressive. It's just fine. And I'm glad I have it. I'll never get rid of it because they don't make this formula anymore, but also just sentimental value. The Morphe James Chinez palette. You can't tell me this looks like James Charles. That's an N. It's clearly an N. So, this only be Jaclyn Hill. We're going to hold you this way. You don't fit in. This only be Jaclyn Hill because this black is better. That's truly the only reason. Ultimately, the black kind of made my decision, but I can just create endless more looks with this palette. I'm looking at the palette, not at you. I could do neutral looks. I got orange, pink, blue, purple, green, yellow. Fun fact, these two colors are like my absolute favorite. And while the shimmers aren't spectacular, I really like this Cape Cod shade. I know this has been discontinued, and you're going to see a ton of discontinued palettes in my collection just because brands discontinue everything anymore. Everything's limited edition. It's quite frustrating. Thankfully, I'm not a review channel. We have the JSC Blue Blood palette. It looks like this. I'm gonna be honest, I wish this entire top row didn't exist because it doesn't show up on me. I am not fair-skinned, I'm light-skinned, but everything disappears except this shows up. And this is good for inner corner. But all these light colors just vanish into my skin tone. So I'd imagine that anyone darker than me, they'd be quite chalky, which is kind of unfortunate. I also hate that there is a pressed glitter and these shimmers aren't impressive. But I do love the mattes in here, especially these ones. I get that this one does disappear, like I said, but it's great for blending out this shade. I wish it was truly all blue and not so neutral. That is why it's ranked so low, but I wear quite a bit of blue eyeshadow, which when I started dabbling in color, I didn't think blue was going to be the color I wore the most when it comes to funky colors, but it is. This is just not my favorite blue palette. It has some of my favorite blues, but it's Gonna say it, a companion palette to other palettes to create my favorite blue looks. Rest in peace, Urban Decay Naked. If this palette had more mattes in it, this would be rated way, way, way higher, but there's only 2 mattes in here, and Smog and Half Baked are 2 of my favorite colors ever. Smog shows up in some other palettes, which is great. I don't know why they discontinued this. There's cat hair all over. I truly don't understand why they discontinued this. It was a cult classic. It made makeup popular. And I understand maybe they're trying to reinvent themselves or something, but there were a lot of people who wanted to purchase this for the first time or repurchase this. Just repackage it and get rid of this like gross velvet that attracts everything, and maybe add some more mattes like your new palettes. I was sad to see it go, but I do rank it so low because how I do my makeup, I want lots of mattes. Like I'm wearing 4 on my eyes right now. So like you could see what I want out of eyeshadow. Speak of the devil, ABH Modern Renaissance. She is beautiful, if I can hold this correctly. I really want to give this color story some more love in the future. I'm hoping that I can be in the mood for it more. Also, we have to give credit where credit is due. This like paved the way for the makeup industry changing. Like when this came out, the only eyeshadow that existed was browns and blacks. The people lost their mind when this came out. So I feel like this will always be a very, very special palette, even though I really just got mine last year, which is weird to say. I think it is just a cult classic that just really made a huge impression. And I know a lot of people go back and forth. They declutter it, they repurchase it. I will be keeping this forever. Urban Decay Born to Run. I'm telling you, this would be rated much higher if this palette had a matte green in it. Because you get like multiple shimmery greens and no mattes. Like these are cool and I'm supposed to pair them with warm nudes. I don't really get it. I love this palette though because I can create some beautiful warm neutral looks, which is right up my alley. And my favorite eyeshadow shade, Smog, has made a reappearance. They have unfortunately discontinued this. I don't know what the fuck is up with Urban Decay discontinuing like really good palettes. People loved this and raved about it. Sometimes you can find it pop up at Nordstrom Rack. I highly suggest it if you can find it because I do love this palette. The lack of a cool nude is really the only reason this is ranked so low. And call me petty, but when you're ranking this many palettes, you have to get a little nitpicky. It's probably weird that ABH is one of my favorite brands and so many of these palettes have been low on my ranking. We have ABH Subculture. There's also going to be a petty reason that this is so low. I have the reformulated one, so I'm looking at the palette again and not you. If there were a brown shimmer, this would be ranked in probably like the top 10. But you only get this bronze shade here, which doesn't really go with everything. I just want like this color, but shimmery. But like, I don't know if you could see, like that's just like a coppery, like a copper color. It's not a proper brown, and I feel like these colors could really benefit from a brown. I have found when I make looks with this, I generally keep it mostly matte because I don't like how everything works. But I will say this electric shade is one of the most unique things in my collection. It's so beautiful. I try not to use it too much because I'll be devastated when I hit pan on it because they don't make this anymore. Surprise, surprise. Next we have the Wet n Wild Nautical Nonsense. I love this palette. It's actually really, really good quality. My complaint here is the pressed glitters. There's at least 3. I don't know if it says. This was limited edition, so it's no longer available. I love this because SpongeBob is my favorite if you couldn't tell or don't know me personally. I created a beautiful look with this and the quality is fantastic. I just wish they got rid, well, I did actually really like this one, but I wish there was fewer pressed glitters in it, honestly. Because the shimmers were fairly good. I don't really understand the pressed glitter, but whatever. That's solely why it's ranked so low. I hate pressed glitter. ColourPop Nude Mood. This is a great dupe for Soft Glam, in my opinion. And Soft Glam is one of my favorite palettes. I also love this palette, but why it's ranked here is I have Soft Glam and it's just better quality with more shades to choose from. I love that these palettes have some Super Shock shadows. I think both of these are Super Shock shadows, which are a lovely formula. So if you love this color story and don't want to spend a lot of money, highly recommend this. This one pains me because I'm obsessed with this palette. It is the Violet Voss Sugar Crystals, but you're very limited with the looks you can do here. If you want to do something, I mean, I've made cute looks, but it is truly monochromatic. You can go straight down, and sure, you could do a rainbow and then one of these things, but it's very, very limited in my opinion. I'm not upset I have it. I love it, but in this ranking, you gotta give me more than singular looks. I also use this as a companion palette. Shocking, I know. Next, we have the Too Faced Gingerbread Spice palette, and let me tell you, I hate the reflectiveness. The Too Faced holiday palettes are just so good, and this smells lovely. It doesn't really smell like gingerbread to me. It kind of smells like vanilla, but it's lovely. I love that it's warm. I love the orange. I love this warm pink. The shimmers are beautiful. I love this palette. I only ranked this here because I like the other one a little bit more. And honestly, at this point in the ranking, it started to get really hard and I had to get really nitpicky or else they all would have been number one. Next, we have the Violets by Juvia's Place. This palette is so good, and purples are so hard to do, so I was super impressed that a palette this tiny and this affordable would be this fantastic. My only complaint is we have more shimmers and mattes. I wish we did half and half. That would make it a little better in my opinion. Also, if I could keep it open, which I can't. Also, the looks you can do with only the two mattes just end up looking similar no matter what shimmer you use. So it's almost like a one. Maybe at best you could do 3 looks with this palette. So I can't rank it much higher for me. Also a companion palette. Next we have Melt Radioactive. So pretty. I literally have nothing bad to say about this palette. It's only rated here because I don't do neon looks that frequently, but if I do want a neon look, this is the first thing that I grab. Next, we have the Lunar Beauty Greek Goddess. You'd think this would be ranked higher because it's, you know, warm nudes. This is a beautiful palette, and his old lab, he has switched to labs now, had such phenomenal formula. The new lab I've heard isn't as good. The reason this is ranked where it is like these colors tend to be like this one and this one are way darker than they seem in the pan. Like I've done looks here thinking I'm going to create something specific and I start to put it on my eye and it's way darker and not the vibe I'm going for. That is truly the main reason it's here is you don't get what you see. And so I really have to think and swatch things before I do an eye look. I can't just go in and play with it. Next we have ColourPop Milan. Look at beautiful. Look at beautiful. It leaves me speechless. Look at how beautiful this is. But the fucking pressed glitters. Mel 420. I am a sucker for all of these spring releases because they always come out on my birthday. I don't smoke weed or anything, so that doesn't appeal to me. But like, how many people get a palette that has their birthday on it? Like, it's named after my birthday. Like, that's pretty cool. The quality of this, in my opinion, is fantastic. I love that it's almost all mattes because I have plenty of shimmers elsewhere. I even have some like single Super Shocks that I can use, so I don't particularly need it. I know this palette is divisive on quality. Some people say like it isn't good at all. I love it. I just find it only reach for this color story kind of in the fall, but after using Melt Gemini on my eyes today, which is also another palette I use in the fall, I think I need to start reaching for this more often. Too Faced Pumpkin Spice. We got a pumpkin theme, we got oranges, we got rosy tones. It's so many of my favorite things. Also, like, look at these purples. I did a purple look with this, and it was so freaking cute. I am obsessed with this palette, and I really hope I get more use out of it. We're really getting into the hard rankings here because I wish I could have ranked this higher, but I just have more favorites. Urban Decay Naked Honey. Praise the makeup gods. look at how many mattes are in a naked palette. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a satin. That could count as a 7th. I'm obsessed. Also, warm nudes. Hello. There's a couple cooler shades thrown in here, but like, I'm obsessed. The quality is great. The color story is great. If this is your scene, and have I mentioned that there's 6 mattes? Revolution, Tammy X Revolution Tropical Carnival palette. I recommend this to everyone who wants a rainbow palette, but they don't want to spend much, because you can get this for like $7 quite frequently. And I use this as a companion palette all the time. The shimmers kind of suck. They're not that impressive, but they're also not the worst in the world either. They're kind of more of like a metallic than anything else. Let's just show you. Like, they're not bad at all. So for this price, like, it's great, and I love reaching for it. I reach for it in a lot of my colorful looks, and I don't think I'll ever stop. ColourPop Blush Crush. This is a nice dupe for the Huda Beauty New Nude, which is my favorite palette that I never shut up about, and you're probably sick of hearing it if you've been here watching my other videos. This is great for someone who likes that color story but doesn't want to pay Huda Beauty prices, because this is very affordable, so it makes sense. This is higher up on the list. Lunar Beauty Strawberry Dream. First of all, can we appreciate that this is the prettiest packaging to ever exist? Open her up, and here are my main blues. Any blue look you see me do, I'm usually pinching my fingers using these two. And this blue diamond shade, I'm just all over the place with this mirror. I apologize. It's so unique. I have nothing else like it. It barely smells like it anymore, but when I first got it, it smelled like those strawberry shortcake ice cream bars. It was divine. I'm really, really sad that he switched labs, because when these things come back, because I don't know if this is coming back or if it was limited edition, I don't know that it'll be the same quality, but I love this so much. And like I said, I reach for this when I'm doing blue looks as a companion palette, but it is beautiful on its own for pink looks as well. ABH Nervina. Something in this palette has a hold on me, and it's probably the shade Rose Gold. Also, Dazzling is really pretty, but you can see that, like, I use Rose Gold a lot. This is a perfect everyday palette for me. If I could stop shining the mirror at you. I think this is great if someone wants just a very, very light pop of color in their collection. This is a great palette for that, and it is phenomenal formula. Soft Glam. This is new to my collection, newer than Norvina, so it looks kind of untouched. The black here is one of the best blacks in my collection. Highly recommend it. Warm nudes, don't really need to say more. While it doesn't look like it, because like I said, it's quite new to my collection, this has become one of my most used palettes. Perfect for every day, right up my alley to fit like the color story like I'm wearing today, which has become one of my favorite color stories to wear, just like warm browns. Love it. We have the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop Sugar Cone. This makes me want to cry because this collection was so good. I could have like rioted about how good it is. This is a color story that looks very similar to half of the things I've shown you today, but reminds me of the Natasha Denona Glam palette, which if you have not seen that video, check it out. Horrible experience with Natasha Denona. This gave me everything I wanted from that palette. And the whole collection of these Sweet Shop palettes are so good. I can't believe that they're not high end, and that makes it even more sad that BH Cosmetics got bought out. I don't know what Makeup Revolution is going to do, if they're just going to take the formulation and throw it away, if they're going to adapt the formulation, or if BH Cosmetics is just going to get the Makeup Revolution formulation, which is not good. These have been showing up at TJ Maxx and the like. If you see them, don't even hesitate. And if it's a color story you want, I highly recommend it, because I think they're only like $7 a piece. I paid $18. We're at the last two. I didn't use that many palettes last year, which I hope to change this year. But, we'll see. I'm creaking. We'll see. The number 2, probably not shocking anyone, the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2. The only reason this didn't get the number 1 spot is there's only 2 mattes, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse with how I feel about mattes. The shimmers in this are phenomenal. The mattes are like butter. You can create such beautiful looks with this, and I truly love it. You can tell mine is messy on one end, and this looks kind of untouched because I have mostly, oh my goodness, I can't speak. Mostly been using these 2 shimmers when I have been using it. I love this so much. It would absolutely be number 1 if it had one more matte, just one. And it definitely unlocked a love for Pat McGrath, and I will be adding to my collection with time. Before I get to number 1, I want to have an honorable mention of the palette that inevitably would have been number 1 because I use it all the time. It was a Huda Beauty New Nude. I'm not including it in this ranking or in this video because I've already used it multiple times this year. It's just a palette that I talk about endlessly. Let's give someone else a chance to be number 1, right? And we're not going far from home. We have the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. I can't speak. Retrograde. I'm sure you just like rolled your eyes. Like, you just swapped one Huda palette for another. Listen, I can't help it that she makes my favorite formula and I'm just obsessed. But look at how many looks you can do with this. You got a blue look, purple look, pink look, rose look, nude look. It's fantastic. I just can't get enough. Also, the one thing this has over New Nude is there's no pressed glitter in it. Now, her other palettes do have the weird slippery thing, but I'd rather have the slippery eyeshadow than a pressed glitter, if I'm being honest, because the pressed glitter isn't going to get in my eye and cause a retina scratch. So, this is actually quite new to my collection. I only got it in November, but you can tell she's loved already. And if I'm being honest, I just need to round out my Huda collection because those palettes are always my favorite. So I'm sure there's no surprise there at all. Thank you so much for watching. If you had a favorite palette last year, or I don't know, give me your top 5 palettes that you used last year. Not your favorite in your collection, just if you remember out of the ones you used last year, whether they're new or repeats, you know, that you've used 100,000 times, let me know because I'm curious and I'm always looking for something new to try. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm working on a little something like uploading twice a week. That would be cool. I'm working on it. I hope it's coming soon. I don't know when I'm going to start doing it, but I will let you know when I do. If you're interested in that, hang around. I would love to have you. And with that, I will see you guys next time.